All right, everyone, get ready. Because today, we're going deep, really deep into this case that's just taken over the news, Chad Daybell's trial.
Yeah,
And specifically, we're going to focus in on
the big one.
some of the testimony we've been hearing from, well, from his kids,
Yeah.
his children, Emma and Garth.
It's pretty unbelievable when you think about it. I mean, to be put in that position,
It's hard to even imagine, right?
imagine being their shoes, just having to go up there on the stand in your dad's trial when he's accused of murdering your stepmom and two kids, innocent kids. It's just,
Yeah. It's hard to wrap your head around the pressure they must be under, that conflict,
yeah.
of wanting to be loyal to your family, your dad, but also wanting to, I don't know, tell the truth.
Exactly. It's like a loyalty and truth. They're just like battling it out inside them. You can practically see it.
And it's, I don't know, all happening out in the open for everyone to see.
All in public. And you can tell their testimony, it's been riveting. It gives you this look into like their family, how they work, what they believe, and also how they're trying to make sense of loving their father while he's accused of these just awful, awful things.
Yeah, it's like this weird mix, right, of getting this glimpse into this family and their life, but then, bam, it's all happening because of these horrific crimes.
That's what's so gripping about all this. I mean, it's just so fascinating. So we're going to break down, really dissect what they've been saying and look at the lawyer's strategies and how all of this could be affecting the jury, what they're thinking.
Okay, so first, let's start with how Emma described Tammy Daybell's health, like in the years before her death. She kind of painted this picture of Tammy being, I don't know, not doing so well, mentioning things like sleep apnea and bruising easily
Uh-huh.
and always being tired. And she even said that Tammy would like swing her arm around to get more steps on her Fitbit
Oh, yeah, yeah.
to win like a family competition.
Oh, wow. That Fitbit detail, that really got to me. I mean, at first it just sounds like a funny little story, right? Shows Tammy was competitive, like to win. But when you think about what the defense is doing, it makes you wonder, like, are they trying to plant a seed? Make it seem like Tammy's death wasn't a total shock because she had all these health problems.
It's almost like they're trying to sneak in this idea that her death could have been like expected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, plant that little seed of doubt in the jury's minds.
Right. But then you've got the people Tammy worked with, her coworkers. They all said she was like full of energy,
Mm.
super healthy.
Yeah, big difference there.
Doesn't really add up, does it?
Not quite. And I'm sure the prosecution will be jumping all over that. That's where the whole who do you believe battle starts.
Right.
The prosecution will probably bring in some doctors, experts, to say, no, 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 what the defense is saying about Tammy's health just doesn't make sense. But then the defense, they're going to try to show Emma as this loving daughter who's just sharing her memories of her mom and her struggles.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Both Emma and Garth, they both spent a lot of time talking about their dad's beliefs,
Right.
like to explain what he did, his actions. They talked about light and dark scales and casting out evil spirits, things like that.
Ah, yeah. Interesting.
And Emma, she even said that Chad, her dad, had done this casting thing on her to get rid of like a dark entity.
That's a pretty bold move from the defense, I gotta say. This stuff might, make sense to some people, but to a jury that's never heard of this stuff, it could sound pretty out there.
Right.
Even dangerous, maybe. So the question is, are they being genuine? Are they just trying to give us some background, some context for why Chad did what he did? Or are they playing a game here, trying to distract everyone from the actual evidence?
It's a really fine line they're walking, for sure.
Totally. And speaking of risky moves, let's talk about that Google search, the one Emma did. The defense, they said she Googled Southwest winds the day before they found Tylee's body on Chad's property. They're saying it was totally innocent, just for a family trip they were planning. But earlier she said she's not good with directions at all.
That doesn't quite add up.
Right. It's like what prosecutors call a credibility trap, It might not seem like much, just a little detail, but these little things, they can really hurt a witness's story. It starts making the jury think, maybe we can't trust everything she says.
And I'm sure the prosecution is going to use that to try to say Emma's changing her story to cover up what she knows.
Oh, absolutely. They'll use that to try and, tear down everything else she said. That's how they do it. Chip away little by little.
So let's move on to what Garth said. His story about finding his mom dead, that whole thing is just confusing. First, he tells the police he heard a thump and found Tammy. But then, later on, he says he was asleep when Chad found her.
Yeah, the prosecution loves this kind of thing. They really went to town on that. bringing up all this evidence, like where Alex Cox was, according to his phone, and the timestamps on text messages, stuff that just doesn't match up with what Garth said later.
And then there's that 911 call, which everyone's heard by now, right? I mean, Garth starts by saying, "We just found my mom. She's on the ground, frozen or stiff." Like, that's how it starts.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden Chad grabs the phone.
And you're like, "I'm the husband. She's clearly dead."
It's just like, whoa, what just happened there? Makes you wonder, did Chad put Garth up to saying that first part? Or maybe influenced him somehow?
When I listen to that recording, I don't know, you can just hear this hesitation in Garth's voice, almost like he's trying to remember what to say. I mean, can you imagine the pressure in that moment?
Totally. And the prosecution's probably going to say that hesitation proves they were trying to hide something. They'll say what Garth said at the beginning, that was closer to the truth, and then he changed his story later to protect Chad.
It's like these tiny little things, a pause, a change in a word. It can all become super important in a big trial like this. The jury, they're watching everything, listening to every word, trying to figure out what's real and what's made up.
And that's the tricky thing about this whole case. You've got family loyalty, religious beliefs, and maybe even lies, all tangled up together. It's like a puzzle the jury has to solve, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
And while we're talking about confusing evidence, we can't forget about the autopsy report, right? Emma said the police, they basically forced her to talk to them, to do an interview in exchange for the report. But then, bam, the prosecution plays this recording of that conversation, and you can clearly hear the detective saying she doesn't have to do an interview.
Oh man, classic example of the prosecution using hard evidence to make a witness look bad. Makes you question if Emma's being truthful at all. What's her motivation here?
Why would she say that when there's proof she's not telling the truth? I mean, it makes her look bad, unless she's trying to trick the jury on purpose.
You never know. The prosecution's going to say this just shows that Emma will bend the truth to help her dad. They'll say she's biased, that she'll say anything to support him.
It's risky putting Emma on the stand, knowing all this could come out, that her credibility could be shot. But maybe they're hoping her emotions, her love for her dad, will come through to the jury, even with all these inconsistencies.
Yeah, it's a gamble, definitely. And it makes you think about how juries decide, Can feelings overcome facts? Can a witness, just by how they act, sway the jury, even when the evidence contradicts what they're saying? These are the questions that are going to decide this whole case.
And it's not just the kids. Chad Daybell himself, he's been acting different in court, too. Went from being all stoic, like no emotions, to now he's getting more reactive, especially when his kids were testifying.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Interesting, right? At first, when he was just sitting there stone-faced, I think it might have made him look bad, like he didn't care. Not something you want when the jury's deciding your fate.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, with his kids up there, he's letting loose a bit, showing some feelings, maybe trying to come off as more human, someone you can feel sorry for.
He's been smirking and raising his eyebrows like, "Can you believe this?" And even crying a little. It's almost like he's putting on a show for the jury, trying to act like he's totally shocked by these accusations.
It's a risky move, for sure. Some people on the jury might see it as genuine sadness, but others, they might think he's faking it, just trying to manipulate everyone. It all comes down to how convincing he is. Are those real tears from a dad who's been wrongly accused? Or is he just a really good actor putting on an act?
And the jury, they've been, I don't know, they seem way more into it this time around compared to Lori's trial. More focused, reacting more. Maybe seeing his kids there is making a difference, making them feel for him.
Could be, could be. We all have empathy, right? It's natural. Seeing a dad with his kids, especially in a courtroom with so much tension, it's bound to bring out some sympathy, even if it's unconscious.
Yeah, it makes him seem less like the defendant and more like a regular guy, a dad who's got family and feelings just like everyone else.
Exactly. It's a powerful thing for the defense to do. It goes against that whole cold-blooded killer image the prosecution's trying to paint. It taps into that part of us that wants to believe people can change, that even if they did bad things, maybe there's still some good in them.
But we can't forget about all the evidence the prosecution has, right? The stuff they found on his computer, the money stuff that looks suspicious, and those text messages between him and Lori, man, those are chilling.
Right, right. The prosecution, they've been really good at laying it all out, step by step, showing how Chad and Lori, with their doomsday beliefs, they wanted to get rid of their spouses, and then, well, the kids disappeared and turned up dead.
They even found searches on his computer for things like how to get away with murder and how to dispose of a body. And the financial stuff, it shows he actually gained money when Tammy died. Not to mention, those texts, man, they really make you think they were obsessed with their crazy ideas, like didn't even care about the pain they were causing.
And then there's the big one, the kids' bodies found buried on Chad's property. That's something that sticks with you, and I'm sure the jury can't get that image out of their heads.
It really hits home how serious all of this is. No matter how much he tries to play on emotions or use tricks, 2 kids are dead.
Absolutely. So the jury, they've got a really tough job. They have to take all of it, the emotions, the things that don't add up in the testimonies, what the lawyers are saying, and all that evidence, and somehow figure out what really happened and decide if he's guilty.
It's a huge responsibility. They have to put their own feelings aside and just focus on the facts. Ignore all the drama in the courtroom and just look at the evidence.
Not easy, but that's how our system works. The jury, they're the judges, they're the ones who decide, and they have to be impartial. They can't let personal opinions or emotions sway them. Only the evidence matters.
As we're watching all this, I keep thinking, what if I was on that jury? How would I deal with the kids being so loyal to their dad when there's all this evidence against him? How do you even start to understand a case like this, with faith, family, and trying to find the truth all mixed together?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves. There's no right answer. But trying to find the truth, even when it's hard, that's what matters. It helps us understand ourselves and the world around us.
And that's what's so messed up about this whole thing. Like, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about family, about how strong faith can be, and if people are actually good deep down.
Makes you realize, yeah, there's this dark side, even in places where you least expect it. And sometimes evil doesn't look like, a monster. It can be someone who's charming, who believes in something so strongly, and who uses love, family love, to hide behind.
This trial, it's not just about finding out if Chad's guilty. It's about figuring out this whole mess of lies and manipulation, and how far people will go to protect each other, even if it means hiding the truth and screwing up justice.
It's a good reminder that getting justice, it's not always easy. It's complicated. You have to look at everything, different sides of the story, evidence that's not clear, and people's memories and how they see things, which can be unreliable.
And we, the people watching all this, we have to be smart about it. Look at the information, question what we think we know, and not just jump to conclusions.
Right. We need to be a little skeptical, open to different ideas, and understand how serious these accusations are and how they've affected people's lives.
This deep dive, man, has taken us inside a family that's been torn apart, a community that's dealing with something truly awful, and a legal system that's trying to sort through a pile of lies. It's a story that's still going, and it's going to stay with everyone who's been following it.
And as we wait for the jury to decide, we're left wondering about the bigger questions, What does faith really mean? When does believing something turn into, like, a dangerous fantasy? And how do we balance loyalty with being honest, especially when someone we love does something terrible?
Tough questions, and each of us has to figure out our own answers. It's not easy, but searching for the truth, even when it's hard, is important. It helps us understand ourselves and the world better.
And even though our deep dive is ending here, the conversation doesn't have to. Share your thoughts, ask questions, tell us if you struggled with these kinds of things.
Yeah, talking about it, asking each other questions, that's how we make sense of the darkness and try to make the world a little better, a little kinder.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So until next time, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions.
And remember, the truth is out there, somewhere.